I inherited a team that was 31st in the league in defense, and I made them better. I made them a hell of a lot better. I'll be out of work for like 5 minutes. 5 minutes. He's very confident. The other Ryan, I don't know. Let's see. Did Rob Ryan deserve to be fired? Stephen A., this one's for you.
Right, Skip Bayless, the wrong Ryan is unemployed today.
Okay.
That's really what this comes down to. Rob Ryan should not have lost his job. I think this is a travesty as far as I'm concerned. I think it's a joke. It's what epitomized the Dallas Cowboys as being the joke that they are. As far as I'm concerned, they're not America's team. They're America's joke. 16 seasons, last 14 to 16 seasons, they've been able to register double-digit victories in a season 4 times. That's not America's team as far as I'm concerned. And when you consider the number of players that Jerry Jones has got rid of since 2007, some of the decisions that have been made, the fact that you could sit here and get rid of Rob Ryan, more coaches likely to come, obviously looking to confiscate play calling duties away from Jason Garrett once you decide who your new offensive coordinator is going to be. Yet keep Jason Garrett as your head coach shows you to be the joke of a franchise that you are. Because what it highlights to me is that, once again, all Jerry Jones is doing is continuing the same habits, implementing the same recipe that has led to this franchise's demise over almost the last decade and a half. You calling all the shots. How is it any different? Jerry Jones, you've called the shots. Wade Phillips in, he's out. Jason Garrett's in, other folks are out. Rob Ryan's in. You got to remember, Jason Garrett reportedly didn't want Rob Ryan. He wanted Ray Horton. He didn't want Rob Ryan, okay? But Jerry Jones made that call. So Jerry Jones made that call. Once again, he's correcting himself, but he's leaving the decision up to himself to make the corrections for his faux pas, his mistakes. It's an absolute joke. It's embarrassing. Now, when you consider what Rob Ryan had to deal with, Sean Lee out since October, Jay Ratliff out since November, DeMarcus Ware playing with elbow and shoulder injuries at least the last 2 to 3 weeks. Ernie Sims played with after sustaining a concussion. Gerald Sensabaugh played with a bad hip. Okay, their defense finished 19th overall, 17th against the run, 21st against the pass, but you had at least 5 full starters out. Okay, you had guys switching from defensive, from end to nose tackle. I mean, the list goes on and on. There were so many modifications that needed to take place during this season. I'm not saying that, Rob Ryan was flawless, but what I'm saying is, considering the circumstances, he didn't do a bad job. Now, I don't think the quote was wise. I'll have another job in 5 minutes or whatever. You never know how the political realm works, how people might hold his personality against them. Hell, they might hold his hairdo against him. You do need a haircut, Rob Ryan. You really do need a haircut. But other than that, you never know what somebody might hold against him. But in the end, what it comes down to is, this is an unjustifiable firing. If anybody should be dismissed, it should be Jason Garrett. And if I'm Jason Garrett, you know what? I guess he's in the business of collecting a paycheck, because he should be embarrassed to be the head coach. Because as far as I'm concerned, Jerry Jones is the head coach. He does everything. He does everything. What does Jason? I think a legitimate question could be asked as to exactly what does Jason Garrett do? You don't police the defense. Offensively, you were calling some of the plays that's being taken away from you. You're going to have other coaches who know their job isn't safe, but you stick around to keep your job to answer to an owner who's also the general manager who thinks he should be the coach and the player personnel director. What kind of job do you really have if you're Jason Garrett? As far as I'm concerned, you're a gopher. You understand? You're an errand boy. That's all you are, because what are you doing? I mean, to me, that's what it comes down to. I think Rob Ryan got jobbed in all of this, and I think it's sad, but I think it's indicative of who the Cowboys have become, who they have regressed to, and why they ain't winning anytime soon.
I was with you until you called Jason Garrett the errand boy. I think he's way more than an errand boy.
I'm talking about because of Jerry Jones. I'm not disrespecting him on that level. It's about Jerry Jones.
You know what just happened? Jason Garrett just pulled off a Rex Ryan special.
Yes.
Off 2 disappointing head coaching seasons, he gained stature and power in Dallas. Go figure. How do you pull that off? I don't know. Jerry seems to really like him some Jason Garrett.
Yeah.
Unless he can talk unless Jerry can talk Norv Turner into coming and calling the plays for Jason Garrett, which would be a very uncomfortable relationship for both of those two. I don't see how you can fix this thing, because this was nothing more than change for change's sake. Jerry said, I'm going to make them uncomfortable out at Valley Ranch. Well, there's only one other way to make them uncomfortable. If you're going to keep the head coach, which he made clear, if you're going to keep the quarterback, who I think should be traded now and cut bait with, then who's the next high-profile position in the franchise? It's the guy with the long, wild hair. It's Rob Ryan, because everybody knows who Rob Ryan is. In fact, you and I have advocated he should probably get a shot at being the head coach, if not here someplace. Now, remember, that hair has maybe cost him some head coaching opportunities.
People don't realize that man need a haircut.
Yeah. I mean,
he need a haircut very bad.
He looks like a rebel with a cause, but he looks like a rebel. I know, I like it too.
Listen,
not as your head coach. A lot of people are not going to buy that.
Can I? Go ahead.
Go ahead. So here's the point. That they did fall perilously to 24th in points allowed, gave up the most yards in the history of the franchise, but for all the reasons you just detailed. Are injuries an excuse? Yeah, they are in this case. It's just too many when you lose 5 starters and 2 key backups, and DeMarcus Ware is dragging an arm around, and he was a ghost in the last couple of games. You can't. I don't care who the coach is. Bill Belichick. You know, he couldn't coach this defense any better than Rob did, and Rob brought some energy to that defense, some swagger, some new life to it that it hadn't had under Wade Phillips. So now. What you've done is you've cut off your nose to spite your face, because you had to do something, rattled your saber, and what do? You dismiss a strength of the franchise. So where does it leave you? With Jason Garrett and Tony Romo. That's where it leaves you, except Jason Garrett will have big input. I think they will try to hire the guy that you said that he wanted to start with. They'll try to get Ray Horton to come there and coach the defense.
Let's say a couple of things. Number one, it's not the same as what Rex pulled off in New York. The reason why
it's close.
The reason why is because Woody Johnson appears to be totally clueless. Jerry Jones appears to be totally egomaniacal. There's a difference.
But you think Jerry's a little clueless?
No, I think he's lost because of his ego. It's not that he doesn't know. It's that it's more important for him to get credit for the winning than it is for him to win. If Jerry Jones wins the Super Bowl, but all he does is sit back and defer to the football guy to deliver his franchise a championship, Jerry Jones is not happy. It's important for Jerry Jones to be standing on that podium talking to whoever, whatever host of the network is doing the Super Bowl, saying, yes, I did it. It's important for him to do that. Other owners are like, bring the coach up in here. Here you go. Kraft will sit there and say a few words. Belichick, come up here and talk to these people. I'm done with it. You understand? You look at a Greg Popovich. Obviously, he's not an owner. He's a coach. Yeah. But you look at him in San Antonio, you got the running joke was when he won Coach of the Year, he tried to hand the trophy off to his players, and everybody, and they all turned away from him and walked away because they know he hates accepting the accolades. Oh, Jerry Jones wants to stand there front and center. Yeah, it was me. And that's his problem. Whereas Woody Johnson is just lost. He's just on another level, and we'll talk about that a little bit later on the show. As it pertains to a guy like Rob Ryan, whether you want to admit it or not to the youngsters out there, appearance does matter. You can't walk around here looking like you straight out of the 60s. You understand what I'm saying? With your hairdo flopping all over the place. You understand? And think that you're going to be attractive because this is corporate America, and you have to be presentable.
Okay,
that's what you got to work on.
I have one last quibble.
Sure.
I'm going to defend Jerry on one point as opposed to Woody, because Jerry Jones, it was a long time ago, but he did deserve some credit for 3 Super Bowls. Not 1 or 2, 3 Super Bowls.
But what you're not understanding, that makes it worse. Because even though he does deserve credit, clearly he doesn't feel he got enough of it because of Jimmy Johnson. And ultimately, even though it was Barry Switzer that came in, it was the players that him and Jimmy Johnson helped bring to Dallas. And he doesn't believe that he got enough of the credit. So rather than understanding the 3 Super Bowls that he won and that being satisfactory in terms of stepping back and deferring to some degree, this dude is fixating on gaining credit again. I respect the heck out of Jerry Jones as a businessman. He is a hype machine personified, which is why Dallas is is always relevant when they have no business being relevant. But in the end,
like
his
Diddy.
football decisions are highly questionable. He's not Diddy because Diddy answers.
That's a first.
No, Diddy
Jerry
answers the
Jones
bell.
in the same sense with
Hype.
Diddy.
Getting it hype.
P. Diddy answers the bell. He might be hyped, but he lives up to the hype. I'm still waiting for the Cowboys to do that. One playoff victory
One
in
more.
16 years. Stop.